She was supposed to stay broken. She was supposed to mourn quietly, ask no questions, and never look too closely at the life her husband left behind. But when her instincts told her something was wrong, she listened. What she uncovered was ugly: betrayal, deception, greed, but it also became the beginning of her transformation. This is the story of a woman who turned heartbreak into clarity, and clarity into power.
7 months pregnant, I was sorting through Liam's things in our Seattle high rise. I powered up his work tablet, hoping to find old photos, when a notification flashed across the screen. It was a financial alert from our tech firm's primary account. My heart stuttered. I had been pretending I was fine for almost a year since Liam's accident. A year of forced smiles and hollow reassurances. The notification was a crack in the fragile peace I had built. It detailed a transfer so large it made me feel sick. I immediately started searching his device, my fingers flying across the screen. My voice was a shaky whisper in the silent apartment. Liam, what is this? I found a partition I had never seen before, locked tight with a password. It was a part of his digital life he had clearly walled off, even from me. A chill ran down my spine, leaving me breathless in the empty room. Liam had kept a secret. The city lights blurred through the floor to ceiling windows as my mind reeled. What could he possibly hide? At 42, he was a star programmer, obsessive about the clean architecture of his code and his life. We built our software company, Nightingale, with my sister Ava. There were no secrets, I thought. I found a security backdoor he had once shown me, a failsafe for emergencies. The tablet unlocked, revealing a custom financial app. A log showed dozens of recent failed login attempts from an anonymous IP address. Inside the app was a single, heavily fortified savings vault. Someone else knew about this. Someone was trying to get in. A wave of dread washed over me as I read the vault's details. The sole beneficiary was listed only as AV. A short embedded note read, "For my Chloe, if the worst happens." I tapped the vault icon. Inside were detailed asset logs and a single encrypted text file. The beneficiary's full name shimmered on the screen. Ava, my own sister. "I will be right outside," Liam had once joked about this app's security. Now the words felt like a curse. As I sat there, stunned, the air felt like it was being vacuumed from the room. I opened the text file, my pulse pounding in my ears. The first sentence shattered my world. "Chloe, my love, if you are reading this, I am gone, and Ava is pregnant with my child." It couldn't be, not Ava. A text message suddenly lit up my phone. It was from her. "Hey sis, just checking on you. How's decorating the nursery coming along?" The casual cruelty of her words made it hard to breathe. I stared at the tablet, at the secret life Liam had built without me. Ignoring the buzz of another text, I focused on his letter. I read his words again. "Chloe, Ava, and I were together for 3 years. This vault contains almost $1 million for her. It was moved from Nightingale's development fund. I have proof. This is about more than the money. She was trying to force you out of the company. She doctored reports in your name to reduce your equity stake." I confronted her back in July. She threatened to make our affair public. I set up this vault to buy her silence and protect Nightingale. But she wouldn't stop. This letter explains everything. The password to the main evidence folder is the name of our first secret. You're reading this now because she made a play for the cash. I was on my way to see our corporate lawyer the morning of the car crash. I was a fool for trying to fix this by myself. Avenge us. I love you, Liam. P.S. She's not your sister. Ava, my baby sister, had siphoned nearly $1 million from our company and was engineering my professional ruin. And Liam knew. He had been compiling a case against her while they ran the company together. He died hours before he could expose her. The official report called it a tragic accident. Now I wondered if the stress of it all had made him careless, or if it was something more sinister. A simple car accident felt too convenient. I scanned the transaction logs, a slow, steady drain of funds into ghost accounts, all traceable back to Ava. He had tracked every last cent. Below them was a folder containing our initial business contracts. The partnership agreements, going back 5 years, were covered in Liam's digital notes. He had circled clauses next to Ava's signature, adding questions about their authenticity. At the end of the last document, a summary: total stolen $920,000. A folder was titled Nightingale the Truth. Next to it was a digital key for a secure cloud server I had no idea existed. A sharp knock on the front door made me leap. Chloe? It was Ava. Are you home? I hadn't moved for over an hour, paralyzed by what I'd found. Just a second, I called out, my voice hoarse. The login screen for the cloud server was now completely locked, she informed me when I finally opened the door. But it looks like someone tried to get in multiple times today. She handed me a bottle of wine. I thought you might need this. I have the full server logs if this becomes a problem, she said with a tight smile. I just nodded, feeling numb. Later that night, alone in our quiet condo, I tried to open the encrypted folder on the tablet. A password field popped up. I typed in our anniversary, October 5th, 2017. Access denied. Liam's words echoed in my head. The password is the name of our first secret. A sorrow we had buried together, a pain Ava could never understand. I typed for hours, each wrong guess feeling like a tiny betrayal. By dawn, my eyes were burning, and I was no closer to the truth. The screen's blue light was my only companion. I tried every variation I could think of. The first restaurant, denied. Our first trip, denied. The street we lived on, denied. I tried his mother's name, our dog's name, anything tied to a happy memory. Nightingale, denied. Seattle, denied. Every guess was just another locked door. Each rejection felt like a final goodbye. The pulsing cursor was a quiet mockery. I wanted to throw the damn tablet across the room. His worn-out university hoodie was still on the back of his desk chair. The relics of our shared life were all I had. I reread his note in my mind. Our first secret. A private grief, not a public celebration. A loss we carried alone. It finally clicked. Not a place, not a date, but a name we had chosen. The clock read almost 1 a.m. I was exhausted, but I couldn't do this alone anymore. My fingers trembled as I dialed Julia. We met at MIT, joined at the hip from 2008 to 2012. Julia was my anchor, especially after Liam's accident. She was the only person I could trust with this. She answered on the third ring, her voice groggy with sleep. Chloe, it's the middle of the night. Julia, I found something. Liam left a protected file. I need you. Can you come over? Her voice sharpened immediately. Are you okay? Is your place secure? I'm fine. I need your help. 20 minutes. She lived 15 away, but always factored in late night bridge traffic. Julia was a forensic accountant, sharp and methodical. The doorbell rang at 1:05, exactly as she promised. At 41, with her dark hair pulled back, she was divorced, no kids, and loyal to a fault. She wore a faded MIT sweatshirt. Okay, she said, her eyes scanning the living room before she bolted the door shut. Start from the beginning. I pointed to the encrypted folder on the tablet. I showed her the transaction logs, the secret vault, and Liam's devastating letter. She studied his cryptic note about the password, her face a mask of concentration. After a long moment, her gaze met mine, clear and focused. Ava? You mean your sister, Ava? I could only nod, a fresh wave of tears blurring my vision. $920,000 in less than 3 years. Julia let out a low whistle. This wasn't just skimming off the top, Chloe. This was a systematic demolition, a calculated effort to gut his company. That two-faced. Julia cut herself off, exercising a rare moment of restraint. I appreciated her unfiltered honesty. A hollow, weary sound that was almost a laugh escaped my lips. We were silent for a moment, the password hint. Our first secret. What have you tried so far? I showed her my long list of failed attempts. She scanned them quickly. Chloe, these are all celebrations. Your anniversary, your first big contract, the day you bought this place. She tapped the screen. He wrote, secret. What is the one painful thing you two went through that you never told a soul? Her expression softened. Not even me. A familiar weight pressed down on my chest. There was only one subject Liam ever spoke about with that kind of hushed reverence. a silent sorrow we shared with no one. Not my family, not our friends, and especially not Ava. My voice was barely a whisper. I know what it is. Julia leaned forward. What is it? I couldn't bring myself to say the name out loud. Not yet. First, I need to see what he left for me. She understood immediately and gave me the space I needed. Jessica was my rock. Okay, she said quietly, let's follow the transactions. We pushed my notepad aside, focusing on the monitor. 3 years of wire transfers filled the screen, a perfect record of betrayal. Vanguard Solutions. April 2021, $9,500. Jessica read the first line item aloud. She looked over at me. Is this a real consulting group? I just slowly shook my head. I've never heard of it. For 3 years, the story repeated itself. Vanguard Solutions for strategic advising. Vanguard Solutions for data analysis. The payee was always identical. The descriptions were meaningless corporate jargon, and each transfer was just below the $10,000 threshold for an automatic review. Pure fluff, Jessica said, her eyes fixed on the name. Vanguard. Wasn't that the name of Emily's childhood horse? She married Greg in 2020, a year before these payments began. Jessica picked up her phone and began calculating. The total grew alarmingly. 250,000, half a million. She placed her phone on the table. $975,000. Mark was right. My head was throbbing. That was nearly $30,000 a month. For 3 years. His tech startup handles massive data sets. Our biggest client pays maybe $60,000 a month. Jessica highlighted a row. What exactly did she do for this money? Nothing. Emily never attended a single client meeting. She rarely even came to our family holiday gatherings. Jessica clicked open another file. So where did it end up? I pointed to an account number right there. Mark had tagged it in red. We read his note. Account 7 C Vanguard, Emily's personal investment fund, confirmed by Bank Trace. Not a business-related cost. Jessica leaned back, her face grim. She wasn't a consultant, Sarah. She was embezzling from you. I nodded, a sickening wave rolling through me. Mark had left a digital trail. The first entry was from July of 2022. It read, Invoice has no purchase order. Check with E. He knew something was off back then, but his serious digging started in December. He had scanned the state's corporate registry. Nothing. By March of 2023, he'd uncovered fabricated service agreements. His notes became more pointed. After confronting Emily in September and giving her until Christmas to return the funds, his tone became ice cold. The last entry was from May 28th, 2024, meeting with Davies, June 2nd. He had everything. He died in a boating accident on May 31st, 2 days before meeting his lawyer. The words on the monitor blurred. He was so close to exposing her. Jessica put a hand on my shoulder. He did all the difficult work for you, Sarah. He built the entire case. I sat there, completely numb. Jessica's voice turned sharp and professional. My entire job is auditing shell corporations. I can look up Vanguard Solutions right now. You can do that from here? She was already typing. These state databases are accessible 24/7. It's Wednesday. I can pull the incorporation documents in 5 minutes, she said. If it's a legitimate company, it has a registration number, a tax ID, and an office location. If it doesn't, it's a ghost company. And that, Sarah, is felony wire fraud. For this much money, her voice trailed off. If she faked all this, it's a major federal crime. The silence in the apartment felt heavy and suffocating. Sarah, Jessica said, tapping the total on the screen. If she did this, she's looking at significant prison time. But she's my sister, I whispered. She's a parasite that was gutting your husband's company. I couldn't argue with that. Jessica highlighted one of Mark's notes. He gave her from September of 2023 until December of 2023. His logs show she didn't pay back a single dollar. She just created new fraudulent receipts. Jessica looked straight at me. He offered her a way out. She chose to lie even more. I stared at the ledger, at Mark's careful notes, highlighting every fake payment. My own sister had siphoned nearly $1 million from his legacy. She made up a company, and when she got caught, she just doubled down. What do I do? I whispered. Jessica's answer was instant. Tonight, I'll confirm it's a shell company. By tomorrow afternoon, we will have undeniable proof. And then you hire a lawyer. Mark mentioned a Mr. Davies. Start with him. Should I phone him now? Yes, but wait until I confirm Vanguard Solutions is a fraud. Give him the complete package. I nodded, a profound exhaustion settling over me. The time on my laptop screen was 1:52 a.m. Jessica disconnected from the call. You need to get some sleep. Call me the moment you wake up. I'll be okay. You go. Are you certain? I'm certain. Her video feed vanished. I was alone with the screen. 40 months of lies. $975,000. My sister's envy quantified in perfect digital columns. At 2:03 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a notification. A text at this hour could only be bad news. It was from my mother, Carol. One sentence. Can't sleep. Thinking of you. Did you manage to get into Mark's encrypted drive? Call me. I read it a second time. 2:03 a.m. She was asking about his hard drive. Why? 10 months after his accident? A sudden interest in his files. I didn't respond. I just took a screenshot. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. I managed maybe 2 hours of sleep. At 7:30 in the morning, my phone rang. My mother. I took a deep breath and answered. Mom? Carol's voice was bright and forced. Sarah, darling, I just wanted to see how you were doing. It was her first call in over a month. She had been so distant since the accident, a wall between us. I always suspected she blamed me for not seeing how much he was struggling, for not being able to protect him. How are you getting by? Carol asked. The startup is stable. The entire conversation felt staged and empty. Then came the real reason for her call. Have you had a chance to sort through Mark's encrypted hard drive? His company data? A silent alarm screamed in my head. Why do you ask? Carol paused for a bit too long. It has been 10 months. Sometimes organizing can help the healing process. I started going through a few things, I said, choosing my words with care. Her tone grew more specific. The company's finances or just his personal folders? Both. Is there anything in particular I should be aware of? Another long silence. No, Carol said. It's just, if you find any odd payments, you should probably ask Emily first. She always had such a keen eye for that kind of thing. My hand clenched the phone. You want me to ask Emily about Mark's business accounts? She was his operations consultant. She could spot a phony invoice from a mile away. My mother was pushing me toward a specific narrative, for a specific reason. What was she trying to hide? I'll keep that in mind, I said, my voice hollow. Perfect, I have to go. We will talk soon. The line went dead. No warmth, just an impersonal click. I stood frozen, phone still in my hand. The coincidence was too great to ignore. A text message at 2 in the morning. A phone call at 7:30 in the morning, both concerning Mark's files. Was somebody telling her what to say? My eyes went to the closet in his study, to the small fireproof safe on the top shelf. The latch was unclasped, not fully locked the way he always left it. When did I last open it? I couldn't recall. Maybe last year to find some old tax papers. Or was that the year before? I checked the front door of our apartment. There was no sign of a break-in. But anyone who had the building's access code could have entered. Our family had the code. Emily had been here countless times. She knew the layout, our routines, the private key for the elevator. Mark had mentioned the safe's latch was sticking a month ago, around late September. I had my prenatal checkups 2 or 3 times a week. The penthouse was empty from 3 to 7 p.m. on those afternoons. Plenty of opportunity for a visitor. At 9:30 that morning, a text from Emily popped up. Hey you, just thinking of you. I miss our chats. We should grab lunch soon. Her upbeat tone felt like a physical blow. Our last real conversation was at his funeral 10 months ago. We used to be so close. Emily is 5 years younger, 34 to my 39, the cherished baby of the family. She married a nice, quiet IT director, Greg. In 2016, they have no children. They own a condo on the riverfront. She had been Mark's operations consultant since 2019, a title I now understood was a complete fiction. I reread her message. The coordination was unmistakable. A phone call from my mother at 8, then Emily's text at 9. My brother in law hadn't called in months, and now this text from Emily arrives. They were synchronized, afraid I was getting close to the truth. Of course, I typed. Friday at that new cafe sounds great. I needed to see her lie. Her reply was immediate. Amazing. So excited. The fake happiness was nauseating. I put my phone down. She didn't know I had decrypted Mark's drive or seen the files on the $975,000 she had funneled out. I would play the part of the grieving widow. At 10 o'clock, my lawyer called. I am reviewing the file for Vanguard Solutions. It was registered just 1 month before Emily joined Mark's company. My stomach lurched. The company belongs solely to her, Ava Renault. It's a ghost entity, Maya, with a mail drop in Cambridge. For siphoning money from the fund. This was premeditated. I stared out at the Boston skyline. What is our next move? I asked my lawyer. I'll contact the accountant Liam was scheduled to meet. Want to be there? Not yet, I said, ending the call. I opened the file. Project Genesis. Over $1 million missing. Liam's meeting was for June 5th. His boat sank on June 3rd. That weekend, I watched Ava enter the charity gala, her smile a perfect mask. I had come early just for this. The place was crowded. The ballroom hummed with financiers and donors, a symphony of hushed talk and clinking champagne flutes. I needed to catch Ava unprepared. She arrived near 8, a new designer clutch under her arm. Was it from her bonus or from Liam's stolen million? Her dark hair was immaculate, her gown flawless. She looked like a woman without a care in the world. Her smile was a practice thing as she embraced me coolly. You look exhausted, she said, her eyes assessing me. Are you sleeping at all? It's been difficult, I answered. We found a small table. She chose champagne. I took water. How are you really? She asked. I'm managing, I said. Settling his estate is overwhelming. She gave a sympathetic, rehearsed nod. Staying busy is good. We exchanged pleasantries about the unpredictable Boston weather and firm politics. She invited me to her summer house in Nantucket. I'll consider it, I said. She leaned closer. The partners are getting anxious. They say you've been dodging their calls. Grief doesn't operate on a deadline, Ava, I stated. Her hand rested on mine. I just hate thinking of you in that enormous Beacon Hill house. If you decide to sell, we have the interested buyers. A new condo would be a fresh start. Was she trying to get me out of Liam's home office? I'm not there yet, I told her. A flicker of irritation crossed her face before she concealed it. I changed the topic. I had a question about the Genesis Fund you co-managed with Liam. You were the lead on that, correct? For a time, she replied, her tone guarded as she sipped her drink. What exactly did your role entail? Her answer was smooth, clearly prepared. I handled investor communications, regulatory compliance, and market analysis. Did you have clearance for his personal investment server? I inquired. Only for shared portfolio data. Why do you ask? Her voice was light, but her gaze sharpened. I kept my own tone even. Just trying to get Liam's affairs in order. I've been organizing his records. The volume of paperwork, agreements, transfer orders, account statements is immense. Ava's hand paused. You're going through his business files? Yes, payment approvals, wire receipts. He archived everything. Discover anything noteworthy? She asked. I shrugged. Just some financial dealings that are complicated to trace. She leaned forward, her expression a mask of pure concern. If you need an extra set of eyes, I could come by. I can help you decipher it all. That's very generous. No, Maya, I'm serious, she insisted. Some of those venture capital payments are opaque without the right context. I wouldn't want you to misinterpret something and become worried, she added. Asterisk, misinterpret asterisk. She hoped I wouldn't uncover her theft. I'll keep that in mind, I said, shifting gears. By the way, I found a burner phone in Liam's study. Eva's eyes twitched. A second phone? That's bizarre. Isn't it? The IT guy said the SIM was snapped, but the cloud backup was intact. Oh, she murmured, taking a sip. An old device, I'm sure. Perhaps, I said, but the strange thing was that someone tried to remotely wipe the cloud account just last week. Eva placed her glass down with deliberate slowness. Do you know anything about it? No, of course not. Her smile wavered. Liam must have. The access logs show a 3-hour attempt from last Tuesday. The tech pinpointed the exact time. How peculiar. I saw the brief panic in her eyes before she buried it. Did he recover anything else? She asked. He found the phone's casing was pried, like someone tried to force the memory card out with a knife. Ava's expression turned to stone. How awful. Do you think it was a break-in? I'm not sure. The alarm system was never tripped, but I'm having it upgraded with more cameras. A very wise decision, she said, a little too fast. My fiancé owns a top-tier security company. I'll look into it. We spoke of other things, but the life had gone out of the conversation. Her guilt was a palpable thing. The way she tensed when I mentioned the files, her vague answers about her job, her immediate offer to help to manage the story, the warning not to misinterpret, the shock about the burner phone, her eagerness to suggest a security firm so she would know the new system's blind spots. She desperately wanted what was on that phone's backup. She had been in my house. By 10:30, our charade was over. I settled the bill. She barely objected. We walked out into the crisp Boston air, thick with unspoken accusations. Ava gave me a brittle, stiff hug. Call me if you need absolutely anything, she said, her tone falsely cheerful. I worry about you so much. I will, I lied, the words feeling like poison. We went to our cars. I got in, my hands strangling the steering wheel. Ava was deeply involved in this. Our entire conversation was a performance. Her fake sympathy, her questions about the phone, her talk of security. She was trying to gauge what I knew. She had been inside our home. She had tried to destroy Liam's data, and she knew I was getting close. I started the engine, my mind a tempest. As I pulled into my driveway, my phone lit up. A message from a blocked number. It contained a single terrifying sentence. Certain investments carry great risks. Stop looking into your husband's business. My heart hammered my ribs. I forwarded it to my lawyer Mark with a quick message. Just got this anonymous threat, right after seeing Ava. His reply was instantaneous. Do you know who? No, but the timing is no coincidence. Mark, she's running scared. I've archived this, he wrote back. This is important. Do not delete it. Done. I sat in my driveway, staring at the house. An intruder had violated my home. They had tried to destroy Liam's secrets. Now they were threatening me. The next morning, I called a forensic accountant, Arthur Finch. The man Liam was supposed to meet. I had waited long enough. The next day, I stood before a glass building in Boston's Seaport District. A small brass plaque reading Finch Financial Forensics. I took a steadying breath and entered. A calm receptionist greeted me. Miss Sterling, Mr. Finch is ready for you. She led me down a silent gray hallway to a corner office with a view of the harbor. Arthur Finch stood to greet me. He was in his late 50s, with graying hair, a sharp suit, and an intense, analytical gaze. He shook my hand. Miss Sterling, I am deeply sorry for your loss. I just nodded. He had a meeting with you scheduled. He did, Finch confirmed, his voice serious. He told my secretary he had proof of significant partner fraud and needed to see me urgently. We set it for August 19th. He died on the 17th. I am aware. I regret he was unable to keep that appointment, Mr. Finch said, gesturing to a chair. You said on the phone you had found something. I have what he intended to show you. I set my tablet on his polished desk. I opened the secure folder on the screen. Liam's final note to me was the first file. Mr. Finch read it without a word. Below it were financial statements and wire authorizations. $300,000 to Maritime Growth Fund, another $250,000 to Seaport Innovations. I told him the folder was programmed to become accessible 30 days after Liam's death. Mr. Finch was meticulous. making notes on a pad. He focused completely on the data. After reviewing it, he finally spoke. Your husband was very precise. He documented the entire scheme. Mr. Finch turned to his own computer. $550,000, Seaport Innovations. The sole director is Ava Renault, your cousin. Yes, it's a shell. It has no operational history, no tangible assets. The payments were coded as seed funding for ventures that never existed. Liam gave her an opportunity to repay it. She refused, and he was using their affair as leverage to force her hand. Mr. Finch gestured to my tablet. These text message archives are damning. Are these the original files? Yes, recovered directly from his phone's cloud server. Mr. Finch laced his fingers together. Here is your reality. You possess powerful evidence. The bank records prove the embezzlement. The text confirm his intent to expose her. So what's the problem? Ava will argue the money was a private gift between lovers. She will claim this is all a fantasy created by a grieving pregnant cousin without the falsified investment reports he mentioned. It is her story against a man who is no longer here to testify. A deep chill settled over me. Mr. Finch's voice was unwavering. For a civil suit, you are in a strong position. For criminal charges, we need more. The texts refer to fake contracts. That is what we must find. Otherwise, she could say Liam was unstable, that the money was for undocumented consulting work. These family disputes are brutal. You need undeniable proof. So without those reports, I am stuck. You face a difficult challenge. She could walk away completely. The room was quiet. Mr. Finch watched me. What is your relationship with your cousin now? I thought we were like sisters. I believed she was my closest friend. This is going to be the hardest thing you have ever done. Betrayal is a gradual poison, and I had been drinking it for years. Are you prepared for what comes next? I could still see my sister's hand on my growing stomach at our last family dinner, her eyes filled with fake tears. She was sleeping with my husband while draining our company. She didn't just want our money, she wanted my whole life. I am ready, I said to Mr. Davies, my voice steady. We cannot tie her to Mark's accident, but with this evidence we can prove wire fraud. It is a federal crime. She will be facing prison. For how many years? It could be as much as 20. The words hung in the silence. I showed Mr. Davies the message from my sister. She sent this after I asked her about a budget overrun on the Vanguard project. He read her veiled threat, his jaw tightening. This came from her phone number? The timing is too precise to be a coincidence. He handed my phone back. This changes our timeline. She knows you are suspicious. She will start to destroy records. So what should I do now? Secure that master hard drive. Liam left you this, Grace said, pointing to the old recipe box. It holds our entire history. I ran my hand over the worn wood. The moment I have proof, I'm calling our lawyer. We'll destroy her. Good, Grace replied, her face grim. And listen to me. No contact with her. Don't answer her calls. Your silence is your power now. I know. She squeezed my hand. The lawyers think they have a case. But this could be the final piece they need, she said firmly. Thank you, Grace. Don't thank me. Liam did all the heavy lifting. He set this whole thing up. We're just seeing it through. Later, I sat in Liam's home office, Grace's words haunting me. A clue only I would understand. Our shared passion wasn't art, it was food. The code name was for a dish we joked about, Viper's Kiss Tart. That night I opened the box. If the key was in our shared dream, it had to be in here. I flipped past recipes for our signature dishes. Then I saw it. The card for the Viper's Kiss Tart. I lifted it and felt the back. Taped underneath was a small encrypted memory card. A tiny label on it read Bistro Master. My heart hammered. A second physical secret. He must have kept this entirely off the company servers. It was his guarantee. If Isabel ever got into their system, he needed a backup she could never find. A physical key was brilliant. I immediately called my sister, Grace. I found it, a memory card. What? A card with what on it? Hidden in the recipe box. The password must be the Willow Creek Bistro. I'm coming over. We're doing this together. But it's so late. Are you sure? It's a password, Nora, not a bomb. Put the kettle on. I'll be there. 20 minutes later, Grace was at my door, looking worried but determined. She handed me a warm cup of tea. You look exhausted. I am. I can tell. Let's see what the snake was hiding. We stood at my kitchen island, the lights of Chicago shimmering outside. The beautiful view was a cruel joke. I plugged the card into my laptop. A password prompt appeared. I typed, "The Willow Creek Bistro." The drive opened. It was a folder of her crimes, fake invoices, fabricated email chains between Liam and phantom suppliers, and a ledger tracking every cent she stole. It was all there. Her scheme was exposed. This was the anatomy of her betrayal. I scrolled through the files, feeling sick. Grace put a hand on my shoulder. "Oh, Nora, I'm so sorry." The theft went back almost 2 years, 24 months of lies. I took a deep breath. When did he find out? I checked the file data. Last modified, October 2nd, the day before his car crash. Liam knew. He was getting ready to expose her. He knew, I whispered. He knew everything she was doing. The only other item was a note for me. "All the proof is here," it said. "I'm ready to act." The betrayal felt sharp. I opened the drive, 24601, and the files appeared. His digital life was perfectly arranged. The only sound was the Chicago wind and the refrigerator's hum. We leaned over the laptop. Folder B, Document 99. My sister Grace and I stared at the password box. The code from his note worked. My hand trembled as I typed. Grace put her arm around me. "We can face this, Nora, whatever is in there." I just nodded, unable to speak. I hit enter. The folder unlocked. I double-clicked and the file list populated, the sound loud in the silent apartment. It felt like time stopped. The list was short, mostly financial documents. 4 files were at the top, organized with Liam's usual care. The first was titled Artisan Provisions Fake Invoices. The second was called Digital Correspondence Analysis. The third was Cash Transfer Forensics. The fourth was, "Nora, read me first." Grace let out a soft gasp. "He left you a guide." "That last one is for me. Let's start there." We opened the document. It felt like I was trespassing on his memory. I had to read Liam's last message to me. I had to know what he wanted. I clicked the file, my heart racing, before looking at anything else. We sat in the dark living room as a fog rolled in off Lake Michigan, hiding the skyline. I stared at the screen. I opened the fourth file. It loaded in an instant. It contained 3 things: a link to Liam's private culinary journal, the icon one I knew well. It was the software I gave him for our anniversary. The second link led to a drive labeled The Ledger. Same code. And the final folder was named Funds from Nora's Trust. Grace pointed at the journal. "That's his private diary. He wanted you to read his thoughts before you saw the evidence." I clicked it, my hand shaking. Liam's words appeared. The entry was from March 11th, 2023. It read, "Something felt wrong today. An invoice from Artisan Provisions came in for $30,000. When I asked Isabel about it, she gave me a convoluted answer that made no sense. I'm saving this for later review." March of 2023. Liam suspected something was wrong more than a year before he died. I looked at Grace, my chest feeling tight. He was already investigating her. We stood in the quiet room, the city lights blurred, as I read his journal entries aloud. March 11th, 2023. Found a strange invoice to Artisan Provisions. 30 grand for imported specialty goods. I asked Isabel what it was for. She started talking about futures and locking in seasonal pricing. It sounded professional, but I don't recall approving that supplier. I'm watching it. June 20th, 2023. 2 more large payments to Artisan have gone through. The total is now over $100,000. I confronted Isabel and asked for a complete breakdown. Which products? Which menus? She got defensive. She accused me of not trusting her judgment. She claimed she would send a report, but it never showed up. September 5th, 2023. I looked up Artisan Provisions in the state registry. It was incorporated in 2021. The sole agent listed is Isabel using her maiden name. There are no other officers. The address is a mail drop in Evanston. The company is a ghost. She's been stealing from our business. I had to end the call. The loan officer's voice was just a dull drone. August 2023. That was the start. I wasn't even showing then. My hand shook as I scrolled through the transaction history. March 2024. I scanned the last few years of our primary accounts. Over $600,000 had been wired to Orha Design Concepts since late 2022. I made a few discreet inquiries with my gallery contacts. No one had heard of Chloe's firm. The design projects were a lie. It was embezzlement. June 2024, the deception. Chloe came to my penthouse, her face a mask of concern. She presented a stack of purchase orders, apparently approved by my own gallery manager, authorizing payments to some unknown art supplier. She claimed she found the discrepancies during a review. She said it was a shock, but the documents were undeniable. I stared at the papers. It was my manager's name, her e-signature, but I know my team. Something was deeply wrong. The minute Chloe left, I pulled the server logs. The approvals originated from IP address 192.168.1.77. That IP is assigned to Chloe's personal tablet. I know because I helped Liam set up their smart home system. My gallery's network is entirely separate. Chloe faked the documents. She tried to frame my manager for her own crime. She wasn't just siphoning money from our future. She was willing to ruin an innocent person's life to cover her tracks. A cold sickness washed over me. I couldn't look anymore. My hands were trembling too much to use the mouse. Chloe's voice was a sweet, toxic melody. She wanted him to think his own people were betraying him. My voice was a choked whisper, and Liam saw nothing. He just let her do it. I wiped a tear from my eye and forced myself to go on. September 2024, I found 3 major acquisition deals from the past year. My signature was on each one, but I never signed them. I casually asked Liam about the artists over dinner, keeping my tone light. He'd never heard of them. I examined the digital approvals. They were high-resolution images of my signature, copy-pasted onto the forms. Chloe had forged my authorization. December 5th, 2024. I found a saved text chain today, from Liam to Chloe. He laid out all the proof against her. She replied, admitting she had a massive debt from a past business failure. She begged him not to tell me, arguing the shock would be dangerous for me and the baby. He offered her a deal. 1 year. Return every cent by December 2025. Straighten out her life. If she complied, he wouldn't tell me. Why would he do that? Because Chloe is my cousin, and he thought he was protecting me from a family implosion. I read the next message. My world stopped. December 12th, 2024. I still haven't told Amelia. She's been so radiant, so thrilled about the baby. Our gallery just landed the Guggenheim partnership. She's finally happy, truly herself, for the first time since she lost her father. How can I tell her that her own cousin has been stealing from us and tried to frame her team? How can I destroy her happiness? If Chloe pays it back, Amelia never needs to know. Chloe could have her secrets, and I could have my heart break. It was the weak way out, I knew, but I couldn't shatter her, not after she'd already lost so much. My eyes filled with tears. Daniel held my hand, his grip a steady anchor. He was trying to shield you, he said softly. He carried that weight so you could be at peace, to spare you from this agony. I looked at the journal entry again. October 6th, 2023. Catherine asked if I was okay tonight. Said I seemed a million miles away. I blamed work stress. She's so full of life. Lost in plans for the baby's room. Talking about hiring a new curator. The truth would annihilate her. She would be utterly broken. I can carry this burden a while longer. March 10th, 2024. Chloe has paid back nothing. Just offered more empty promises. She's still manipulating the books. I was an idiot to believe her. My appointment with Daniel Croft is on the 14th. I will tell Catherine after that. I'm done protecting Chloe. March 13th, 2024. His last entry, the script was rushed. Seeing the attorney tomorrow at 10, this whole catastrophe is almost over. Catherine, my love, if you find this, I am so deeply sorry. Forgive my silence. The password is Seaside 2018. The weekend we knew it was forever. It's all on the drive. Use it. Get justice. I love you. L. I folded the heavy paper. We were in Daniel's Boston office. I must have stumbled out of the conference room, Daniel following close behind. My legs were numb. Seaside 2018, he murmured. The key is your first trip away. The place your life together truly began. We never told anyone about that weekend. He had left a small encrypted drive in the envelope. My hand was now icy and still. Let's see what Liam left for me. I sat at Daniel's desk and connected the drive. A password prompt appeared. I typed slowly. SEASIDE 2018. I exhaled and clicked enter. The prompt disappeared. A single folder materialized. CD underscore financial underscore fraud. It held nearly 200 files, all meticulously organized. 01 underscore invoices underscore fabricated. 02 underscore text underscore records. 03 underscore bank underscore audits. 04 underscore signature underscore forgeries, and so on. Each folder had a summary from Liam, a financier who lived for precision, even as he exposed my own cousin. Daniel sighed. He gift wrapped the entire case for you. I clicked the first folder. 72 files appeared. I picked one. Quote, invoice underscore gallery underscore systems underscore August underscore 20-20-2.pdf. It looked professional with a sleek logo Chloe likely designed herself. Invoice number GSC 2022-014. Client, the Monroe Gallery, for security upgrades and climate control. Amount due $22,000. Signed, Chloe Davis, project lead. I checked the file's metadata. The information told a very clear story. Author, Chloe Davis. Device, Chloe's Surface Pro. Created August 15th, 2022. The payments were always sent the day after she generated the invoices. Liam pointed at my screen. She managed the entire con from her personal laptop. She left a blatant digital trail. It's like she never thought she'd be held accountable. I opened Liam's audit, quote, financial underscore analysis underscore tmg.nxsx. A flawless spreadsheet appeared. Each fraudulent payment was logged with metadata, creation timestamp, author, device, and the exact dollar amount. All 51 invoices came from the same source, created by one person on one machine right before submission. I opened the communications archive. It contained 94 emails between Liam and her fake company. I selected one from November 2024. From Gallery Systems, it read, as discussed, December's installation is finalized. We have sourced the 3 specified German artists and secured 2 private collection loans. The invoice is attached. The total is $31,500. It looked completely legitimate, formal, detailed, with a proper attachment. But Liam's subfolder had one file, quote, network underscore traffic underscore analysis.pdf. My hands trembled as I opened it. The report showed IP addresses and server data. The finding was irrefutable. Every email sent from Gallery Systems originated from IP address 72.21.92.3, the same address for all 94 messages. It was the public IP for the cafe across from their apartment building, where, Liam noted, Chloe worked every single morning. The art supplier was incorporated the same week it sent its first invoice. Chloe was paying a company that barely existed. Liam just shook his head at her audacity. One single IP address for the entire fraud. She gambled that being family would make her invisible. I scanned through the files, my pulse racing, The third folder tracked the money, showing it moved from our gallery accounts to gallery systems, then to a Cayman Islands account in Chloe's name, ending in 6338. Every single transfer was finalized within 72 hours of a new invoice being created. Liam's notes were attached. He'd written a simple 3-card Monty with just enough layers to obscure the trail for a casual observer. The fourth file, Forgeries, contained 18 documents. On the left was my genuine signature from our 2020 Gallery Partnership Amendment. On the right were the fakes on acquisition forms from 2023. The forgeries were good, a slight hesitation in an upstroke, a difference in the pressure. A report from a Boston forensics lab confirmed with 95% certainty that the signatures were fraudulent. The forensic accountant walked me through the digital paper trail. My own signature, perfectly forged, was on a dozen offshore wire transfers. It was a complete violation. She had stolen my identity to mask her theft. The next folder held her private spending. Liam, Ethan's brother, said he found it in a shared charity gala folder where Sophia had accidentally saved a personal backup. He'd copied the entire directory. It showed a waterfall of charges from Parisian boutiques and Swiss jewelers. Her expenditures dwarfed her official salary. Over 2 years, it totaled an insane $800,000. The motive was pure greed. The sixth file detailed the digital footprints, metadata from the doctored PDFs and server logs. Every fraudulent transfer was initiated from Sophia's office computer. She'd even used her own card to register the Shell Corporation's domain back in 2022. Every message to the fake consultants was auto-forwarded to her personal email. The final file was simply labeled For Liam. It was a password-protected document. ETB underscore final underscore memo underscore oct underscore 17 underscore 2024.docs. My hand trembled as I moved the cursor. Liam asked softly, "Are you ready for this?" "Yes," I whispered. "Don't stop." I entered the password. Ethan's words filled the screen. I pictured him in his study typing this late one night. The file was dated October 17th, 2024, a week before the boating accident. I began to read. Ethan's calm, direct prose cut through the silence. "This is Ethan Blackwood. It is October 17th. I'm writing this as an insurance policy. My sister Sophia Chen has embezzled over $800,000 from our company using a phantom design firm in Dubai. I have definitive proof on this encrypted drive. She also forged Amelia's e-signature on 12 wire authorizations to cover the payments. Our internal audit confirms the forgeries originated from her IP address. I confronted her in September. She claimed it was a complex misunderstanding with foreign investors. I gave her until the new year to return the funds. She hasn't returned $1. Instead, she has fabricated more invoices. I hesitated to involve the authorities because she's my sister. I wanted to handle this within the family. I now realize that was a grave error. She deserves no such loyalty. I have a meeting scheduled with the board's council next Tuesday. If something happens to me, Amelia, if you are reading this, use this. Make her answer for what she's done." The memo ended. The only sound was the faint hum of Boston's afternoon traffic far below. My phone buzzed on the polished table. A text from an unknown number. "I heard you met with Liam. We have to talk. Don't do anything reckless. S." It was Sophia. Liam saw the message on my screen. "She's starting to panic," he said. I took a screenshot. Another piece of evidence. "What's your plan?" he asked. "I'm going home. I'll wait for her to come to me." The doorbell chimed at 4 p.m. that afternoon. The security monitor showed Sophia on my doorstep, holding a large gift basket from a baby boutique. Her black Tesla was parked by the curb. She wore a cream-colored blazer, sunglasses pushed back into her perfect hair. Her favorite designer bag was on her arm. She smiled up at the camera, holding the basket up like an olive branch, and pressed the bell again. I saved the recording, took a deep breath, and opened the door. "Amelia!" Her voice was like warm honey. "I hope I'm not interrupting. I was in the neighborhood and just had to check on you. You went silent after we last spoke, and I got worried." She glided past me, setting the basket on the entry table before embracing me in a cloud of expensive perfume. I hugged her back, my expression blank as I shut the door. I'm fine, I said, leading her into the living room. Just tired. You know, between the nursery and getting the foundation ready for my maternity leave. I can only imagine. She followed me to the sitting area and sank into an armchair. That's partly why I came. I was thinking about what a monstrous year this has been. Losing Ethan, the market instability, you trying to navigate his estate. I sat across from her, my hands folded over my belly. It was lukewarm in the room. Amelia, can I be completely honest? She leaned in, her eyes wide with manufactured concern. I'm worried about you. I feel like you don't have the whole story, and I think Ethan left things in a far bigger tangle than anyone realizes. What are you talking about? She paused, looking down as if gathering the courage to tell a difficult truth. This is horrible to say, but you deserve to know. Ethan wasn't himself near the end. Not with the business, that was his life, but with his personal life. With you. A cold dread coiled in my stomach, but I kept my face serene. Where is this coming from, Sophia? He told me things. We were always so close, you know? He trusted me. She reached across the small table and put her hand on mine. He said he felt suffocated. He was contemplating a huge life change, maybe even suggesting a trial separation to get some space. I gently pulled my hand away and took a sip of water, using the moment to quell my rage. Ethan never mentioned any of that to me. Of course not, she said softly, her voice dripping with fake pity. He wouldn't want to upset you, especially now. But Amelia, he was burning out. He was always at the office. I found him there late one night, just weeks before he passed, looking haggard. He confessed he was planning something massive. A strategy to restructure the entire company, perhaps even dissolve the family trust. Dissolve the trust? I repeated, allowing a slight tremble in my voice. What would that have meant? He felt it was critical for the company's survival. He said he had personal demons he needed to sort out. He made me swear I wouldn't tell a soul until he had a solid plan. She scanned my face, searching for a sign of collapse. I offered her nothing. Then why are you telling me now? I asked. Because I don't want you to be blindsided. I'm not sure what Ethan was arranging, but he was incredibly methodical. If you find any of his private financial files or investment proposals, you need to show them to me before you go to Liam. His notes could be easily misinterpreted without the proper context. So that was her play. I haven't found anything, I said smoothly. I packed up his study weeks ago. It was just old blueprints and supplier contracts. What exactly did you expect me to find? Her practiced smile faltered. Ethan was just so obsessive. If you stumble upon any of his old project journals, please call me before you do anything. Promise? Why would a journal be a problem? She waved a hand nonchalantly. You know Ethan. A complete micromanager with the budgets, he'd question every single transfer I approved, even ones he'd signed off on. It was exhausting. I feigned understanding. He did seem worried about expenses. Something about a new design consultant from Dubai. Her hand froze, her teacup suspended in the air. A design consultant? Mm-hmm, I said idly. He said some of their bills didn't make sense. Something like $800,000 for preliminary sketches. He was having our auditors look into it, but he ran out of time. The warmth in Sophia's expression completely vanished. Her teacup clattered against its fine china saucer. I have no memory of that. Are you sure? Positive, I answered, holding her gaze. Ring any bells? None. She rose abruptly, smoothing her tailored blazer. Ethan was always anxious. I need to leave. Some developers are arriving at 8. I walked her out. She paused, offering a brittle embrace. Amelia, listen, she murmured. For the company, for Ethan's memory, stop searching his files. You won't like the truth. I'm trying to shield you. From what exactly? Her composure cracked, a flash of panic in her eyes. From needless pain. She hurried to her Tesla and sped off. I locked the door and dialed Liam. He answered on the first ring. Liam, I have it, I said quietly. The secure drive, The forged contracts, the offshore statements, everything. And Sophia was just here. She's terrified. It's happening. A brief silence. Be at my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bring the drive, the access codes, everything. We'll show it to the board's council before the weekend. I'll be there. Good. And Amelia, no more contact with Sophia. Got it? Perfectly. I ended the call and erased the security footage of her visit. At 10 tomorrow, I will give Ethan's brother proof of an $800,000 fraud. My late husband's partner is about to lose it all. The intercom buzzes at 11 on Tuesday, just before my meeting. A premium courier appears on the screen, a crisp legal mailer in hand. I let him up, sign for the delivery, and take the envelope. The return address is a law firm on State Street I've never heard of. I bolt the door, take a picture of the sealed package, then slice it open. Inside are 3 sheets of heavy, crested legal paper. I leaned on the kitchen island to read. The heading was stark: Demand to cease and desist, and return of proprietary assets. My name was below, followed by paragraphs of legal jargon. The firm represented Miss Sophia Chen regarding the Boston Heritage Hotel Group. I found the box with Marcus's journals and the encrypted drives. It all made sense now. Genevieve's visit 2 days ago, her feigned sympathy and carefully chosen words of comfort, was a lie. She wasn't there to mourn, she was probing, trying to find this evidence. Her questions about his personal records were a hunt. She wanted to reclaim the proof of her betrayal and erase him completely. She's trying to paint me as the unstable, grieving widow. Her game was transparent. I took everything to Arthur. 1 o'clock. He looked over Marcus's handwritten ledger, the drive, the statements. He dismissed her tactics with a wave. This is an act of pure desperation. It's pathetic. He tapped the journal. As his wife, you're entitled to his property. More importantly, evidence of a felony isn't protected by any corporate privilege. This is just meant to scare you into silence. So what's our next move? We let her panic, he said, handing me a secure tablet. Let's see exactly what Marcus found. For an hour, Arthur analyzed the hidden accounts, linking shell companies to fake supply invoices. He paused on one transfer. Your husband was brilliant. He knew she'd try to burn it all. And she would have, I whispered. Arthur closed the file. This is undeniable. We have wire fraud, grand larceny, conspiracy, and forgery. A series of felonies. The words settled in the silent room. How much time would she face? He looked directly at me. With this evidence, 10 years isn't out of the question. Probation is a fantasy. If she's convicted on everything, expect 7 to 12 years. Genevieve's entire world gone. I expected to feel victorious, but I was just exhausted. We were once like family. Arthur must have read my mind. He closed his laptop. Clara, there is one other thing. He slid the document across the desk. This is a title from Napa County. Genevieve owns her Pacific Heights townhome with her husband, which is normal. This is not. He pointed to the paper. A shell company, Vineyard Holdings LLC, was created on June 10th, 2024, just after Marcus died. Vineyard Holdings owns a private winery estate. Purchased on August 1st for $5.2 million, paid in a string of wire transfers. He let the information hang in the air. Over $5 million laundered while you were planning a funeral. I felt the air leave my lungs. She bought a secret vineyard. Exactly, and it gets worse. She used the restaurant group's capital to do it. A massive estate bought with money she stole from your company. He displayed pictures on a monitor. A beautiful property with rolling hills of vines. Her signature is the only one on the document, listing her as the sole manager. She left a perfect paper trail. Can we get the money back? Without a doubt. California's asset forfeiture laws are severe in fraud cases. It will be our first demand. The $5.2 million she stole, her shares in the company, and the deed to the vineyard transferred to you. She will have absolutely nothing. The restaurant, the money, the estate she purchased with Marcus's life's work, it will all be yours. I just looked at the photos, a palace built on the wreckage of my life. When do we make our move? I asked. Tomorrow, he said. We will send a secure file to both Genevieve and her husband, Julian. It will contain a draft of the indictment, which we won't file yet. If she meets our demands in 48 hours, it vanishes. If she refuses, the district attorney gets it. If she agrees, she dissolves the LLC, signs over the estate, repays the funds, and accepts a lifetime restraining order. And in return, we don't press charges. She has to agree. It's either this deal or prison. I pictured Genevieve opening that email, watching her entire world crumble. I should have felt joy, but there was only a cold emptiness. Do it, I said quietly. Arthur nodded. Consider it done. She has until Friday. I packed up the evidence, the drive, the journals, the files, and walked out into the chilly San Francisco evening. As I got to my car, my phone buzzed. A blocked number. My stomach tightened, but I answered. Mrs. Beaumont? A man asked, his voice tight with stress. This is Julian Croft, Genevieve's husband. I have to talk to you. I think I'm her victim too. Thursday morning, December 21st. I sat with my tea and called Julian Croft back. He picked up on the first ring. Julian, you said you were a victim. What has Genevieve done? His voice was shaky. Weeks ago, I found a letter from a bank about a $250,000 business loan taken out in my name. My signature was on the guarantee. But you never signed it. I didn't even know it existed. I checked the signature against my passport and our mortgage. It was a flawless forgery. The curve of the J, the loop on the N, she faked it. I closed my eyes. Julian, I am so sorry. I've already moved out. Then your lawyer's office called about some property in Napa. I was floored. She never said a word. She hid it all in a shell company. California is a community property state. Legally, half that vineyard is yours. That's what I mean. I didn't even know it was real until someone called me about seizing assets. His voice shook. Mrs. Sterling, it's Leo. I'm going to be your witness. Her entire position here was built on a lie. I muttered a thank you. His constant client dinners, the secrecy around the new high-rise project. My trust had evaporated. I connected my lawyer, Mr. Pierce, to the call. Clara, are you free to meet today? Please bring the payment authorizations you found. At 3 o'clock, I walked into his office feeling utterly drained. As a designer, I live by the details. I showed him the files on my tablet. A wire transfer from last August, with my husband Ethan's signature perfectly digitally forged. Pierce studied it, then compared it to a legitimate document. He gave a solemn nod. This is a classic cut-and-paste forgery. She lifted his signature from a scanned document and layered it as an image. It's designed to fool a quick glance, but a forensic analysis reveals it immediately. She was skimming over $30,000 a month, routing it through a phantom materials supplier. The bank statements went to an email I would never see, and she used that money for the down payment on her new penthouse in the Seaport district. My knuckles turned white against the polished wood of the table. If we go to trial, do I have to testify? Yes, but we start with a deposition, perhaps next Thursday. I will be there. She needs to be held accountable for what she did to Ethan, to our company, to me. After the call, I just stared out the window. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was her entire plan. I felt hollowed out. The woman I considered a sister didn't just steal from us. She tried to destroy the man who built her career. Around 8 that evening, my doorbell rang. It was my Aunt Margaret, Sophie's mother, twisting the silver bracelet I gave her for her birthday. Her hands were trembling. I buzzed her in. Margaret, I have to tell you something. We sat in the kitchen, a space that had witnessed decades of our family's life. She ignored the cup of tea I made her. Isabella called me. She was sobbing. She said you've hired some ruthless attorney, that you're inventing stories to ruin her. Did she mention what she actually did? She said it was a partnership dispute, that Ethan's accounting was a mess, that she was owed consulting fees. That is the narrative she's peddling. Do you want to know what truly happened? Margaret's expression was unreadable. I took a deep breath. She siphoned over $750,000 through a shell corporation. Ethan's books are meticulous. She created a fictional Italian glass supplier, faked the purchase orders, and wired our capital to her own account. That's how she bought that condo. My aunt absorbed the shock. I continued. The theft isn't even the worst part. She copied Ethan's signature onto payment authorizations. She built a false paper trail to frame him. If Ethan hadn't kept his own meticulous notes, I would be the primary suspect. No, Sophie wouldn't do that. She already has. Ethan confronted her. He gave her an opportunity to return the money, no lawyers involved. She never paid back a dime. Instead, she used the last of the stolen funds to put an offer on a second property in Palm Beach. Margaret's composure finally crumbled. I I helped her with that. I gave her a personal loan, $75,000. She called me in tears, saying an inheritance was tied up in legal delays. I thought I was helping her build a future. You were financing her exit strategy. I see that now. A single tear traced a path through her foundation. She was always the go getter, the one Ethan said had such drive. You were always so independent. I suppose Sophie just felt like the daughter I never had. She is a pathological liar, Margaret, and she was going to let Ethan's reputation be destroyed to protect herself. Margaret shut her eyes. The girl I helped raise is a thief, and I enabled her. You didn't force her to forge his signature. A few months ago, she says, her voice barely a whisper, before their big argument, back in January, Sophie came over. She acted so worried. She told me Ethan was being secretive, making large purchases without consulting anyone. She said she was scared he was putting the firm at risk. She was preemptively framing him, not in so many words, but she was planting doubt. She told me if Clara ever mentions strange expenses, tell her it's a surprise for the baby. I'll handle it. She needs to avoid stress. She was manufacturing her cover story. Any questions I had, she would dismiss as a simple mistake made by my erratic husband. That's why I called you that week. I was worried. I thought I was being a good aunt, but I was just a tool in her scheme. The kitchen was silent. Then Margaret's voice, sharp as glass, cut through. What do you need me to do? The absolute truth. A sworn affidavit about the loan and about her conversation with you about Ethan. If this proceeds, you'll have to testify against your own daughter. I treated her like my own child, and I am carrying your great nephew. Margaret stared at her hands for a long moment. When she finally looked up, her eyes were cold. She was willing to see my husband ruined. She wanted you to think you were losing your mind. That is not a misunderstanding. That is pure malice. My dear, I have spent years making excuses for that girl. Poor judgment, a rough upbringing. I gave her money. I never made her face a single real consequence. But trying to demolish your marriage is unforgivable. She took my hand. I will give the deposition. I will be there in court. I will do whatever you need. This will destroy your relationship with Sophie forever. She destroyed it when she targeted my husband. I am choosing my family. I'm choosing you. We held each other and we wept. A little while after my aunt left, my phone lit up. Alex Pierce. I put him on speaker. Mrs. Sterling, the opposition is ready to talk. Friday morning at 10, Ethan's attorney. They want to discuss a settlement. I immediately called my own lawyer. He wants to settle. Excellent. This is precisely the outcome we aimed for. What if it's just another lie? Let him try. We have it all. The forensic accountant's report, the Shell Corporation's bank records, the hotel surveillance stills, the condo deed, Ethan's own text messages, and now your aunt's testimony. He is completely cornered, with nothing left but his pride. On Friday, we'll end this. The day before the meeting, my lawyer's office was a command center. Harrison, my attorney, and I rehearsed our strategy, gaming out every possible move. On the large monitor, our evidence was organized into 4 digital folders. Harrison walked me through them again. Folder 1, the fraudulent invoices, 52 of them from a company that didn't exist, all traced to Sophie's IP address, embezzling almost $900,000 in 36 months. Folder 2, the digital trail, over 100 incriminating emails from her private accounts, with server logs to prove it. Folder 3, the forgery, 15 project proposals with a forensic analysis showing Ethan's signature, was digitally copied and pasted. Folder 4 was the personal betrayal, charges from a boutique hotel totaling over $70,000, screenshots from my husband's calendar, and security photos of their meetings in the back bay. Harrison's cursor hovered over a single audio file. Ethan underscore voicemail underscore final underscore January underscore 2026 dot wav. 1 minute and 45 seconds of my husband and my closest friend. Tomorrow we stick to the plan, Arthur said, nodding at the screen. We open with the embezzlement, pivot to the forgery, then present the accountant's statement. Her lawyer will want to settle right away, but I'm going to make her listen to every word. Once she realizes her position is indefensible, she'll tell her client to surrender. What if Genevieve denies it all? I asked. She will try, Arthur said, but her attorney is no fool. He will see this as a complete disaster and push for a deal to avoid her total ruin. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. What is the absolute worst that can happen? Arthur replied instantly. She rejects our offer. We file the suit on Monday, the story leaks to the press. Her career is over, and we sue her for every asset she has. She's left with nothing. And the best case? She takes the deal tomorrow. A $5 million settlement is wired within 60 days. She signs over her interest in the restaurants and the vineyard, and she agrees to a permanent non-disclosure agreement. We hold the filing. If she ever says your name again, we ruin her. Arthur opened a briefcase and handed me a folder. Our investigator found the former accountant Marcus was meeting with. He left this for you. I took the envelope. Inside were 2 pages, handwritten on a legal pad and notarized. My hands trembled as I read. I, Martin Webb, swear that between June 2024 and February 2025, I was instructed by my boss, Genevieve Croft, to funnel over $50,000 monthly into a shell account. She claimed it was for off-site development, but now I know it was to finance an affair and a secret life. Marcus had told me just before his death that he suspected Genevieve was stealing from the company. He said he was going to look into it himself. He knew it was all a scheme to hide her theft and her relationship with my boss's husband. I am horrified that I was a part of her deception, and I will testify to that in court. The ink on the page began to swim. He knew what she was, I whispered. This is devastating for her case, Arthur said gently. It confirms Maya used her own father's reputation to manipulate him. No arbitrator will look kindly on that. The desk phone buzzed. Mr. Sutton, Daniel Harrison from Lakeshore Development, is on line 2 about tomorrow. Sutton hit the speaker. Daniel, what's on your mind? His tone was tight. Should I really be there? Sutton glanced at me, and I gave a slow, determined nod. Your testimony is devastating, but Miss Croft will move to have it thrown out. Are you ready for that? On what grounds? She'll claim you have no standing in a personal marital dispute, that you're only present to cause a scene, a private matter. So how do we fight that? We argue you're a material witness to Maya's character, showing a pattern of deceit that mirrors her actions against Ethan's company. It's directly relevant, and Croft knows it. Can she actually prevent me from speaking? Not a chance. Croft will object to make a point, but your voice will be heard. The only uncertainty is if Maya and her lawyer can face the facts. Good, Daniel said. I want them to see the ruin they've created. Sutton let out a grim, humorless smile. Be here at 9:45. Bring the falsified project budgets she had you sign off on. I'll bring you in right after we show them the text messages, when the room is at the maximum pressure. I'll be there. After hanging up, Sutton faced us again. This is tomorrow's plan. 10 a.m. Ethan, Maya, and Croft will show. Croft will open with a laughable offer, which I'll reject on the spot. We will outline the embezzlement piece by piece, then reveal the messages from the burner phone, and finally bring Daniel in for the finishing stroke. We give them some time alone. Then they accept our terms, or we file the lawsuit. But what if he's not thinking clearly? I asked, my voice trembling. His attorney will be. Croft's only job is to mitigate the damage. The moment she sees our proof, she'll tell him to take the deal. My friend Anna looked at me. What's our role in this? You are both present for support and to witness the agreement, Sutton said. Olivia says nothing unless I cue her. I will lead the discussion. She only needs to speak to deliver the final word. What could I even say? I whispered. Whatever you feel is necessary, he replied firmly. They attempted to destroy your life. You have absolutely earned the right to have the last say. I didn't get a minute of sleep that night. Everything was about to change for good. I was in Ethan's Chicago home office, where I'd first discovered the second phone. His desk was immaculate except for a small notepad he used for ideas. The last page was a doodle of a nursery with the words, "For Olivia." He knew this confrontation was coming. He left me a reason to fight. I'm going to see this through, I vowed to the empty room. At that moment, my phone lit up with a text from Anna. You were made for this moment. Ethan is with you in spirit. A second later, a message from my mother. I am so proud of who you are. No matter the outcome, remember that. Nothing from Maya. She was surely with Croft, rehearsing her role for the big show. The innocent wronged party. Friday came. It was 9:47 a.m. I stood outside Sutton's building on Wacker Drive, Anna right by my side. The chilly Chicago wind felt sharp. The brass plaque read, Sutton and Finch, Family Law. Anna caught my eye. Ready? I thought of Ethan. I thought of my supposed friend's betrayal, the years of lies and the new life growing inside me. I remembered his last note. Asterisk, build what we started. Yes, I said, my voice strong. Let's finish this. We walked through the heavy revolving doors. We were on the brink of the moment where my world either crumbles or is rebuilt. Before we proceed, just type the word finish below. Be warned, the next part is difficult. If that's not for you, now is your opportunity to leave. You're still here? Excellent. Let us proceed. 10:02 a.m., Friday, November 5th. Our wedding anniversary. I was seated at Sutton's right in the boardroom with Anna beside me. One seat on our side was still vacant. Across the table, two more were empty. The door swung open. Miss Croft entered first. Late 40s, perfect Chanel suit, with an expression that screamed she was expecting a trap. Maya followed her. She saw me and froze. Her eyes were puffy, her foundation a flimsy cover for her stress. She wore a designer dress like armor, but her hand trembled as she placed her clutch on the table. Olivia, Maya began, her voice thin. Can we talk? Alone, just for 1 minute before my lawyer Sutton intercepted. No, everything said from this moment forward is part of the official record. He motioned to the chairs. Please, sit. Her attorney, Miss Croft, clicked open her pen. Maya couldn't pull her gaze from me, searching for a friendship that was already gone. Sutton adjusted his cuffs. Before we commence, we have one other party joining our meeting. Maya's expression tightened. Who? A sharp rap on the door preceded it opening. My husband Ethan walked in, all the color drained from Maya's face. Ethan, what are you? He wouldn't even look in her direction. He took the empty chair next to me, set his phone on the polished wood, and remained silent. He cannot be here. This is a private... Miss Croft was already on her feet. Objection, Mr. Sutton. This is a discussion about marital assets. Mr. Hayes has no legal standing. Sutton sat calmly, completely unfazed. Mr. Hayes is the primary victim of a significant embezzlement scheme committed by your client, his own junior associate. Her financial crimes establish a clear pattern of manipulation. Pattern evidence is for a trial, not a settlement conference, which is exactly where we are headed if this isn't settled today. Mr. Hayes is prepared to file separate criminal charges for her role in the kickback scheme involving his company. Her behavior proves she has a history of defrauding those closest to her. Miss Croft leaned over, whispering fiercely to Maya. Did you take money from the project? Maya just stared back, her mouth hanging open. The confidence vanished from Miss Croft as she sank back into her seat. Objection noted for the record, Sutton gave a slight nod. Shall we continue? Miss Croft cleared her throat, trying to regain her composure. Mr. Sutton, my client is here to find a resolution, but we strongly deny these baseless accusations. The payments were all legitimate contractor fees. Stop! Sutton's voice was like ice. Before you lock into that story, you will review our evidence. Our discussion begins asterisk after asterisk. You see what my forensic team has found. Maya leaned forward. This is absurd. Olivia, I'm your friend. I finally looked her in the eye. And you are the woman who slept with my husband. Sutton opened a large file. Miss Harrison, I strongly suggest you pay attention. He laid the first document on the table. Lakeshore Tower account, February 3rd. A wire for $55,000. He placed down another and another. Soon a dozen payment authorizations were on the table. Every single one was initialed by her. Nearly $400,000, siphoned from the project's main account. Miss Croft examines them, her expression grim. Sutton continues. All of it was sent to a vendor called Harrison Design Group. They have no staff, no physical address, just a mail drop in Nevada. Maya's voice is a whisper. Those were for consulting fees. Sutton pushes a new file across the table. These are the server logs from your work laptop at the firm. Your computer was used to generate these payment requests, typically minutes after you searched for international banking laws. Miss Croft's jaw is set. Sutton powers on the large screen. Here is the Nevada state registration for Harrison Design. Founder Maya Harrison. Sole officer Maya Harrison. Filed on January 10th. You formed the fake company in the morning and then billed his project for a non-existent service in the afternoon. Real consultants use verified invoicing systems. You simply invented this one. Miss? Croft turns to her client. Is any of this accurate? I occasionally used my work laptop for personal matters. Sutton is merciless. Let's examine your digital trail. He projects a series of text messages onto the screen. Here you are messaging the lead contractor, instructing him on how to inflate his invoices to cover your kickback. Her lawyer is shown the contractor's sworn affidavit. He confirmed the entire scheme this morning. The wire transfers match his testimony perfectly. Your internet provider has already confirmed you sent these from your apartment's Wi-Fi network. A total of 41 messages. You created an entire fraudulent billing system. Ilara, his associate, presses a finger to her temple. You falsified vendor invoices for months? That is a textbook definition of wire fraud, Sutton says, displaying bank records on the monitor. And now let's trace the funds. Project capital sent to Harrison Design. Within 72 hours, that money is moved again to a private investment account in the Cayman Islands, ending in 3177. Your personal account. He points to transfer after transfer, immediate offshore movements, a classic embezzlement operation. Croft slowly closes her portfolio dot model. The heavy binder hit the table with a sound that silenced the room. Mr. Davis's tone was frigid. That covers the professional misconduct. Now for the personal betrayal. He opened a second folder, its label Reading Client Properties and Private Accounts in sharp black ink. Eleanor's hands started to shake. 4 major payments from our primary construction account, Mr. Davis said, went to a new art gallery. Marcus felt the blood leave his face. The investigator turned his laptop toward them. Please look closely. The screen displayed 2 payment approvals side by side. The first was Marcus's legitimate sign-off from last fall. His signature was fluid, confident. Next to it, an approval from just last month. A skilled imitation, but stiff. The date stamp was misaligned. The project code was wrong. These payments put the entire development project in jeopardy, Davies explained, tapping the screen. All to finance a gallery that your partner secretly owns. He displayed all 4 comparisons. She didn't just embezzle corporate funds. She used Marcus's authority to risk the company he built from scratch. Davies passed a thick report to Eleanor's lawyer. Our forensic accounting team was thorough. 60 pages. The conclusion? A near certainty of document forgery on all 4 payment orders. Clear evidence of signature replication, irregular accounting entries. She likely copied a real signature from a scanned file, then digitally placed it on the fraudulent invoices. Eleanor's lawyer read the summary, his face a grim line. Davies continued, his voice steady. Your client leveraged her CFO privileges to execute this. The same office workstation used to register the gallery was used to process these forged payments. Isabel finally spoke, her voice a thin thread. I would never, I leaned forward, my voice low. You were trying to sabotage our future. No, Eleanor, I promise. Davies cut her off. We have more. He produced one last file. In February, you attempted to frame your project manager, planting falsified expense reports to connect him to the payments. You told Marcus, his most trusted employee, was stealing from him. Davies added, but our team checked the server backups. The fabricated reports came from your workstation ID, not his. You framed an innocent man. Isabel was now weeping, her composure shattered. I was desperate. I was jealous of everything you had. Jealous enough for corporate embezzlement and a calculated frame up, Davies said coolly. He closed the laptop. Desperation doesn't excuse calculated deception. Davies dimmed the lights and turned his laptop so everyone could see. It showed a video file, not a spreadsheet. The timestamps were recent. He pressed play. The room was utterly still. My husband's face appeared on the screen, then Isabel's. They were in the company's apartment, the one meant for visiting clients. Casual touches, shared glasses of wine, intimate whispers. Davies clicked the mouse, fast forwarding to the damning scene. His voice was monotone. And this explains the motive. The affair was laid bare in high definition video. Her complaining about him, her mocking my pregnancy, her plans for a life without me. He highlighted a clip from a month ago. She's getting suspicious, she said on screen. She's asking questions about the budget. We have to be faster, Marcus's voice replied. Just be careful. Her final words on the recording were vicious. I'm done being careful. Once she's drowning in diapers, she won't even notice. And by then, the firm will be mine. He stopped the video. The silence in the room was suffocating, punctuated only by Isabel's quiet sobs. Davies turned the screen off. Video evidence from the other party, he stated, time-stamped and undeniable. He looked at Marcus. Meister? Thorne, would you like to respond? Marcus finally looked at Eleanor, his expression a cold, unreadable mask. His voice was hollow. A few weeks ago, I noticed the budget overruns. She claimed they were seed money for our next joint project. He slid his own phone to Eleanor's lawyer. This isn't my project. This was never my plan. I'm dissolving our partnership, and we are filing a police report. She forged my signature, siphoned funds from company accounts, and leveraged our reputation to build her own business. Davies looked at Marcus. Were you aware your partner owned a lake house near Saugatuck through a holding company? No, I had no idea. The law is one thing, but our partnership agreement is clear. That property is 50% mine. She concealed it from me entirely. Marcus turned to Isabel, his voice finally breaking with fury. You jeopardized our firm. You betrayed my wife. You used my name. For what? A view of the lake? Was it worth it? Isabel wept, unable to meet his eyes. Marcus, I'm so sorry. We can fix. No, it's over. He rose from his chair. Eleanor, I'm sorry I was so blind. Mr. Davies, you will have my full cooperation. He walked out of the room without a backward glance. The conference room door clicked shut. Isabel buried her face in her hands, her body shaking with sobs. Her lawyer began to pack his leather folio. Mr. Davies, I require a moment with my client. Davies gave a curt nod. You have 10 minutes. The adjacent office is available. Her lawyer helped Isabel to her feet. She looked like she might collapse. They departed. As their door closed, Davies looked at me. It's over for her. He understands that. So, what happens now? She meets our conditions or she faces prosecution. There is no third option. My brother Leo squeezed my arm. We waited in the thick, anxious silence. The clock on the wall seemed to tick louder with each second. 7 minutes passed before the door reopened. Her lawyer entered alone. Isabel was gone. My client agrees to all of your conditions, complete repayment, surrendering her partnership shares in the firm. The title for the lake house. His voice was flat, empty. Davies nodded. The sensible decision. Mister. Thorne's lawyer spoke up. My client has a counteroffer. You agree to withdraw the police report. She returns all the money. She resigns from the company. She's gone from your lives forever. That is the offer. Davies looked at me. The choice is yours, Eleanor. Every eye in the room turned to me. Mr. Thorne waited. No police report. Do you agree? I glanced at my own lawyer. She moved closer. We should clarify the terms before Mrs. Thorne decides. Mr. Thorne agreed. Full repayment of $1,800,000. Forfeiture of her partner's shares, currently valued at $900,000. The Saugatuck property. Her resignation is effective immediately. That is $2.7 million plus the house. Davies made a note. The payment schedule is 90 days, in 3 separate transfers. Davies wrote that down. Marcus's voice was like stone. The keys to the house will be on this desk by the end of the day. Your resignation takes effect right now. You will also sign an ironclad non-disclosure agreement. We can settle this in private, or we can hold a press conference and ruin you publicly. Isabel gasped. Those were presents from you, Marcus. Gifts, Marcus snapped, that you bought with our son's inheritance and our family's security. His voice became absolute. This is non-negotiable. A quiet life of obscurity is a gift after what you've done. Isabel looked to her lawyer, who gave a slight shake of his head. She needed a moment. After she left, Marcus faced me. Eleanor, what's your decision? I placed a hand over my baby bump. To destroy her completely, it feels wrong. She was like my sister. She tried to destroy us, Marcus interrupted, his voice raw with pain. She knew about the high-risk pregnancy, Eleanor. She knew, and she did this anyway. Marcus's expression softened slightly. She has always preyed on your kindness. A heavy silence filled the room. If she signs every page and disappears, then this ends here, Marcus said. But if she ever makes contact again, for any reason, the deal is off. That was the choice. I met his eyes. Then she gets one chance. Just one. The door opened a few minutes later. Isabel came back. Her face, a mask of cold rage. Her gaze fixed on the carpet. She slumped into her chair. Her lawyer spoke. My client agrees to the terms. Marcus slid a thin folder across the polished table. We need more than your word. He tapped the cover. The first page is the non-disclosure. The second is the asset forfeiture. The third is the partnership dissolution. On the final page, your signature. Isabel, sign here. Her hand shook with rage as she scrawled her name. The ink bled from the pressure. Marcus passed the document to me. Eleanor. My own signature was firm and steady, the final cut. Marcus signed below as the witness. This gets filed with our corporate counsel. The keys to the lake house are expected by courier tomorrow. That sculpture is required now. Isabel's head shot up. Now, that is our condition for silence, Marcus said, holding out his hand. It's due on signing. Her lawyer gave a small, defeated nod. Isabel's voice was a venomous whisper. Eleanor, if you would just let me explain. No, but you have to hear my reasons. I said no. I mentored you, Natalie. I stood up, my voice like steel. You have forfeited the right to speak my name. The office fell silent. I stared directly at her. My tone was frigid. This wasn't just about the firm's money. I might have overlooked that, written it off as a desperate, foolish error, but you conspired to dismantle our entire legacy. You created 16 fraudulent invoices, diverted capital from our art fund, and built a false trail that implicated our gallery consultant. You went to my husband, Julian, and claimed I was mismanaging the foundation. You deliberately tried to assassinate my character. Natalie stammered. I was in a terrible position. You were calculating, you orchestrated every hidden transfer, established shell corporations, and constructed a plausible lie. That is not a terrible position. It is the ultimate betrayal. Julian believed in you. He made you a junior partner because he saw your drive, because he treasured our shared past. He has been shouldering the weight of this deception for months. My voice broke. The burden was crushing him. This was supposed to be our time of joy. I stood firm. I don't hold you responsible for his choices, But you poisoned our happiness with your own greed. You made it all a fraud. This went beyond the firm. It was a friendship. You attacked my career, my husband, and my unborn child. Look at you. Your position, your reputation, your career, your apartment, gone. Tell me, was the price worth it? Did that penthouse ever truly feel like home? Natalie just sat there, sobbing. I will not give you peace. Your apologies are empty. I want you gone. I turn to her lawyer, make certain she comprehends. One single late payment, I notify the district attorney. If she contacts me or Julian, I notify the DA. If she is seen near our home or his office, I notify the DA. This is her one chance to give back what she helped steal and then vanish. I nodded to my own attorney. I am finished. At the door, I paused. We treated you as if you were one of us. You set fire to all of it. Remember that. I walked out. My sister Claire was right there with me. We descended in the elevator in complete silence. In the lobby, my screen lit up. A notification from my counsel, transfer initiated, $2 million, 4:57 p.m. She had done it. The restitution was underway. 4:57, 3 minutes left on the clock. She waited until the very last moment. Claire glanced over my shoulder. You did it. I couldn't form words. I just nodded. A year of foreboding, a month of quiet investigation, and a 5-hour settlement meeting. It was concluded. Later, I sat in Claire's Bayside condo, holding a cup of herbal tea. The apartment was quiet, but my thoughts were chaotic. Claire observed me from the other couch. How are you in reality? She asked. I have no clue. Hollow, vindicated, livid, all at once. That's logical. You have been functioning on pure determination for a month. You are going to crash. I pictured Julian uncovering this, gathering proof while pretending all was normal. He would come home from the office, kiss my forehead, and keep silent. He was shielding you and the baby, I understand, but he was my partner. He was not supposed to face it by himself. He wanted to shield you from the hurt, so he took on everything. The betrayal from his own mentee, the rage, the devastating reality that our friend was attempting to ruin our lives. A profound quiet descended. I sipped my tea. It provided no solace. I'm afraid this has broken something fundamental between us, I confessed. My obstetrician constantly warns me about stress. An affair, stealing from our family's private fund, a total betrayal? What if his secrecy created more damage than just our finances? Claire's voice was resolute. Do not allow your thoughts to go there. That is not productive. I know. I placed the mug on the end table. Julian made a choice. He chose to manage it without my involvement. He chose to secure absolute proof before telling me anything. He did all of it for his family. And you followed through to the end. I did. I hope he is aware of that. The tears finally arrived. Not of grief, but of sheer crushing exhaustion. After 3 weeks of keeping myself composed, I broke down. Claire came over and simply held me as I sobbed. It's finished, Ava. It's truly finished. The next 60 days were a blur. Life went on. I managed the foundation's grants, met with artists, and attended my prenatal appointments. But I was in a holding pattern, waiting for the last transfer. On day one, the first $2 million showed up in the account. I had checked my phone relentlessly, convinced Natalie would default. When the notification arrived at 4:57, with 3 minutes remaining, I could finally take a deep breath. Then, in mid-July, day 61, my lawyer's name appeared on my screen. It's concluded, Ava. The final wire transfer from Natalie has just been posted. The last $500,000. I put a hand on my rounded stomach. You are free now, she said. Natalie was gone from our lives. The affair was done. My next chapter was beginning. It was never about getting even. It was about safeguarding our future. That afternoon, I found a listing for a magnificent Victorian house in Pacific Heights. I messaged the agent and made an all-cash offer, wiring the money straight from the settlement fund. The email confirming acceptance felt like pouring a new foundation. A home for my baby, paid for by the woman who attempted to destroy us. There is a definite poetry to that. My sister Claire met me for dinner that Friday, a new weekly custom. She was strangely quiet. I saw someone earlier today, she mentioned, moving her food around her plate. Natalie at a cafe. I put down my water glass. What did she want? She was let go from that new firm. Julian's settlement claimed every dollar. She's going back to Ohio to live with her parents. How appropriate. Claire examined my expression. She asked if you would ever consider speaking with her. I told her that was probably not going to happen. The state bar is still reviewing his conduct, Claire mentioned. He violated his professional obligations. It is separate from the divorce, but he could be disbarred. Do you believe he will be? I asked. There is a high probability his reputation is ruined. He can only hold himself responsible. I know, Claire said softly. I told Natalie that justifications are not accountability. She just blamed her own ambition. That is a problem for her, not for me. Maybe in a few years, if she ever demonstrates true remorse, but I am not waiting for it. It was June, 4 months after the divorce was finalized. I tilted my laptop toward Claire at dinner. The screen displayed a new website, the Phoenix Grant for Women in the Arts. It supports women rebuilding their creative careers. I am funding it with $100,000, I explained. It has three core tenets. First, capital for new projects. Second, stipends for studio rent. And third, a mentorship program for women restarting their careers after a professional blow. Claire's eyes began to shine. Julian's deception sparked this new mission. I'm creating something good from the destruction. My attorney is on the board. Claire even gave $5,000. The very first grant was awarded to a young sculptor from Oakland. My business partner forced me out when I told him I was pregnant. I thought everything was lost, she told me. This grant is my lifeline. I gave her a hug, my own son on my mind. We were transforming private pain into a public benefit. Tonight, I am in his freshly painted nursery. The ultrasound image of my son is on his dresser. Next to it, inside a drawer, is my wedding portrait, face down. It serves as a reminder of what is real. Julian was a fraud. He had a secret existence with a hidden motive, but lies always come to light. A peculiar feeling made me call our wealth manager that morning. Some may call it intuition. I call it a mother's instinct, protecting her child from a danger she could not yet identify. Discovering the transfers to a shell company in Nevada, co signed by Natalie, nearly broke me, but it also ignited a strength I never realized I had. This was never solely about a failed marriage. It was about protecting my son's legacy. Do not repeat my error. Never dismiss that internal alarm. The sharpest wounds are inflicted by those we trust completely. Trust must be earned. Forgiveness is a choice, but accountability is mandatory. When your gut tells you something is profoundly wrong, listen. That instinct exists to protect you. If this story connected with you, comment about what strength means to you. Share this with someone who needs this message and subscribe for more real life stories. Have confidence in your own power and always listen to your intuition.